All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started just to keep things on time. People are probably going to be filtering in throughout. So, I wanted to welcome all of you to the SOPGA Junior Golf Fitness webinar. We have three fitness professionals on our panel for tonight. First off, we have Adam Tobias, who is a TPI certified instructor, certified personal trainer, and then works for Super Speed Golf as well as TaylorMade Golf. Then we have Maherter, who works out of Buckeye Performance Golf, is a certified strength and conditioning coach as well as TPI certified. And finally, we have Bryce 20, who's a PGA associate at the Golf Depot. He's also TPI certified and is the owner of 20 Golf Performance. So thank you, the three of you, for joining us tonight. I know we're going to have a lot of really good information for everyone. So we can go ahead and get started. And the first topic is going to be, what are the components of a good junior golf fitness program? I know, Adam, you had suggested this one if you want to kick us off, and then we can go around.
You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, the great thing is myself and the other two guys here, we're all TPI certified. And any kid that's getting into golf, I should say any parent that's letting their kid get into golf, should really start with that. To me, even before the golf lessons, because the fitness aspect of this has got to be on point for the kid. And any junior that's, we're talking about, for the most part, golf is probably, 70% boys, 30% girls. The boys, their body is growing so differently, bones versus musculature. Girls might not grow at such a fast rate. So I think as people like us evaluate kids, the fitness program has got to start with the basic evaluation to find their strengths and weaknesses. That's would be my main thrust of anything I could tell. Guys, you want to jump in?
Yeah, like you said, we're all three TPI certified. So starting with that initial assessment will really give us a gauge into the golf specific movements, patterns that the golfer may have or may not have, what they do well and what they don't do well. And then from there, developing mobility first, because if we don't have mobility, we can't move, and then adding strength onto that, and then finally power, because if we don't do it in that order, if we have strength without mobility, how are we going to use it? So again, that screen's really going to tell us where the mobility deficits are. And then from there, we'll also do some power and strength tests. But first, we got to start with that building block of mobility, which a lot of juniors have. So then it's building stability through that and then progressing through those facets there.
Yeah, I agree. Everything they both said. A good line I kind of use and work off of is, first you have to move well, then we can move often. If we have some type of restriction in the body, and, especially golf, if you're right-handed, how many times you swing left-handed? Very, very few. So, there's just, because of that motion, the motion of the golf swing, every single golfer has some type of imbalance or restriction somewhere. And yeah, using that TPI screen is the best way, in my opinion, to kind of identify that. And then feeding off what Aaron said, establishing that mobility and that movement first. Then we can go into actually adding someone's strength, adding some power. But yeah, it all starts with, you first have to move well, and then we can start moving often.
Well, great. I think that's definitely a great place to start. So for us, or at least for me, this all kind of came about, this idea, because I think we've seen a big shift on the importance of fitness in the golf world, because I think people are considering golfers to be more athletes now than they ever have before. So I guess from your guys' point of view, where did that importance of fitness come from, and how important is that for junior golfers at this stage?
Go ahead, Adam.
When you guys want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go. So I think where it kind of came from, at least me growing up, a big person I always watched was Tiger. And, I felt he was a really big proponent of it. We always talked about it. And in his heyday, he's winning most of the time. And just doing these crazy performances. And in my opinion, he's the best golfer, but I know it's up for debate. But I think he really had a great proponent to really throwing this in. I know Gary Player back in the day had it, and I've seen interviews of him where people are just, giving him all kinds of crap on, oh, you're going to hurt yourself and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I don't even know how old he is now, but I mean, he's one of the best moving individuals of that age group. Watching him go at the Masters or something just for like the honorary tee off. I mean, it's amazing just to watch him. And I think people are just realizing, although golf's not a physically demanding sport, it's not like football or basketball or, you're running into people or getting hit, but it's one of the only sports where we stand sideways from where we're trying to go. And we have to literally, like, if I'm standing this way and hitting that way, like I literally have to turn and rotate. And yet again, I'm walking up and down hills. It's hot. It might be 90 degrees in the summer. And, if you're traveling around the country, there's different types of terrain you're working with. And I mean, it's just and we're out there for what? Somewhere between 4 and 5 hours. So, I mean, you're out there for a long time, and, and then nutrition plays a factor into it as well. So I think just as people develop and start to play, like I think it's just kind of a mind shift has changed. And I think a big part of that has also been the PGA Tour. A lot more PGA Tour guys are using TPI professionals, using other fitness coaches, and you see them having different fitness routines, and you see them in the gym. I know Joey D down in Florida, he always, he shows Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson, just a bunch, Nelly Corda, bunch of different professionals on the PGA and LPGA. And I think that kind of grows the aspect of golf fitness, because especially for aspiring juniors, we look up to these guys, and these guys and girls. So seeing them do something, we go, oh, okay, now I want to go do that because that's what they did to get there. So like I need to add that into my factor as well.
Yeah, it all kind of started with Tiger. I was kind of going to go with Bryce, the same type of thing. When courses have to Tiger proof in order to kind of defend against what you do really well and the other players can't do, that's when you know that the game is going to change, and it has changed. And it's a longer game, it's a faster game, stronger game. So it's going to keep progressing that way and keep getting faster and faster. All these guys are swinging 100. If you're not swinging 170, 175, you're getting left behind right now. So it's moving at a pace where if you're not doing this training, you're at a significant disadvantage. I know we'll kind of get into the later on down the road type of thing, like what college coaches are looking for, but you can win all the tournaments in the world. But if you're not an athlete, and if you can't swing it fast and hit it really far, then they're going to put you to the bottom of the pile. And you can win as much as you can, but if you're not fast and if you can't do that, you're way behind the 8-ball. And luckily that is something that you can teach. In other sports, you can't teach size, but in golf, we can teach speed and we can't teach strength. So, you see, like Bryce said, Joey D working with all of those professionals, down there, PGA and LPGA, and they're also working with baseball players, MLB players. So it's the rotational aspect of it. Like you said, there's a lot of shearing force going on in the body and a lot of torque. So like Bryce said, it's not, you're not getting hit by anyone, but there is a lot of torque being applied to your body. And if you're not strong enough to kind of withstand that torque and work through it, then again, you're not going to be very successful.
I know it started with Tiger, and there was such a brunt force from him. Whether anybody knows, the first time he stepped on the tee after he declared himself as a professional, I think he weighed 161 pounds. And he looked like king of the Q-tips. Thin, not much muscle. That sure changed, and I think he changed the look of golf, literally the look. His physical nature is just, he's like sculpted now. The one cool thing that with what I've done, I have a client that he happened to play, and he's played in a few PGA championships, and I like this question in that. When I went out with Bob to San Francisco, I was lucky enough to get into the tour trailer where the guys are training. And the cool thing is, not only knowing that Tiger brought this on, these guys are doing this. Like the day of play, for example, Rory McIlroy, sure he's in shape, but I'm here to tell you, he comes out of that trailer and he is dripping from sweat. And that's before his round on a Thursday. So that's how important the physical aspect is now. One of the top players, and they all do it in some form or function. They're doing it, and Tiger started it, and it's been really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, great. Thank you for all that. I guess shifting gears just a little bit. Obviously, not everyone's going to train the same, whether you're 9 years old or 19, there's going to be differences. So, what are some of those key differences that I guess you have for your clients depending on their ages, and how can our juniors implement some of that into their sort of training plans?
Yeah, I can start on this one. So, I mean, the younger that you start, which everyone asks, when should I start? What should I be doing? I mean, start whenever, as long as you are doing it properly, as long as you have proper supervision, obviously focusing on proper technique. But the younger you are, the more we're going to focus on just athletic development, teaching proper motor patterns. I mean, kicking a ball, throwing a ball. If you're starting at sub 10 years old, then yeah, we're gonna teach you how to be an athlete first, and then teach you how to be a golfer later. So the younger you are, the more athletic movements you should be doing. Just become an athlete. Like we said, the sport is becoming a lot more athletic. So that's kind of the first thing, is developing those kind of qualities. And then as we get older, as you have establish those motor patterns and can move properly, that's when we can start putting some strength on you, single leg training, a lot of core stability. So again, the younger you are, the more athletic we're gonna try to get you. And then as we get older, we'll get more golf specific and make the workouts actually look like the golf swing. But until we got those basic squat hinge patterns down, we're not going to do anything super golfy in the gym area, at least.
Yeah, I'm feeding through that. Especially if you are starting, as a young junior, like playing other sports definitely has its benefits, on developing that athletic ability. So I'm currently in the PGA associate program, and, one thing that the PGA of America is teaching us is, like allow your juniors, to play other sports, to play tennis, to play basketball, to go out and run if they want, just to develop, again, like those different motor patterns, those different movements, because again, like that helps you move well, so then once you get older, we can start moving often, we can start loading those movement patterns. And some of the best golfers I know, played other sports growing up, and, maybe kind of specialized in either middle school or high school or something along that. I mean, I know like my current buddies who haven't even picked up golf until after college. I mean, the ones who have been very active and have played other sports their whole life, they have an easier time, developing the golf swing, being able to add power, add speed, just because they kind of have that athletic base. So I think what I try to do, and what I try to teach like people I work with, is I want to change how golfers are viewed, because the number one thing I get is, oh, well, why is golf important? John Daly never worked out, and, he was crazy successful on tour. And, like Adam and Aaron, I'm sure you guys maybe heard something similar. But there's a difference in being like fit and then like being golf fit. When I think of fit, I'm thinking some big muscular guy, 6-pack abs and that kind of thing. But, like golf fit, even if comparing it back to John Daly, was he able to balance? Could he properly like shift his weight? Could he rotate well? Did he have mobility, stability, flexibility? Did he have power? Yes, he had all those. But again, like by learning how to develop an overall athlete, like especially as a junior golfer, like you will have a much better time learning the golf swing, having different aspects of your game improve, and just overall just be healthier in general as well.
Neat little thing. I'm glad you mentioned John Daly. Before my answer, I'll share this. I don't know where I read this, but there was a tournament and Tiger Woods was walking out of the gym per se, and John Daly happened to be sitting around probably doing nothing. And John Daly said, Tiger, what are you doing? Why are you here working out late or something like that? And Tiger responded with, John, if I had half the talent you did, I wouldn't have to work out. The biggest thing I think with the kids we see here in town in Columbus, and I think so many young kids are so gung-ho on golf, and you see parents just take them and say, we're just going to do golf. The key component is doing other things. I don't care if it's table tennis, soccer, that well-rounded piece of being an athlete and getting your body to work is so important. And I don't like the trend that the kids are going so into golf, even as they get into their middle teen years. I still think they're missing out on something. So I want them to keep doing whatever it is, even playing basketball. And I know for us, because we all probably work for ourselves for the most part, and you think, oh my God, I lost out on 2 clients because it's basketball season. But at the same time, they've got to keep doing this stuff to keep developing their bodies. So I like that idea. And even from a young age, really, the more they do the different sports, it's only going to benefit golf later.
Great. Thank you for that. Next, we're going to go over what are some of the benefits you've seen, or the benefits that you have for training for juniors. Whoever wants to start with that one, feel free.
Well, the benefits of training juniors, I would tell you that in this day and age, so many of them want to do this all day long. And I say, throw that thing away. How good do you want to be? Because they're going to start training. If your parents are going to invest money in you, and it's not just $100 a month, there's a lot at stake here. Their investment, their time. So the kid, to me, is going to want to dive into it. And I love working with kids because you show them so many different aspects. There's so many different exercises. Just because your right hip doesn't do so well, there's 100 different things we can do to help that kid, whether it's bands, weights. The list is endless, and that's kind of what's neat about fitness. There's always something different to do to attack a weakness. And that's what I like about it. You might have kids do stuff and they're looking at you like, okay, what did you watch on YouTube? And myself, I'm 51, thinking, well, first of all, I've been doing this stuff for about 30 years. So there's my YouTube for you. That's it.
Yeah, a big one I see, especially with junior golfers, is, working on that athletic ability. I see a huge carryover in one. I mean, the biggest one is their performance on the golf course. If someone's conditioning is better, someone has more strength, they're able to get up and down on a course a little more. If you're going to a specific course and you got to climb a crazy hill, and then, you got to get up and hit a shot, by being in better shape for it, you're not going to be as tired. You're going to be able to recover faster. And one thing I like to kind of teach is, and I think it's very overlooked, is how to breathe. Silly as that sounds, using your diaphragm and your belly, and when you breathe out, like I try to think, if my hands are around my stomach and I breathe in, with my stomach, I feel my stomach expand out forward, sideways, and back. And by doing that, that just neurologically helps calm you down, relieve stress. So, I mean, it's part of my fitness, or it's part of my pre-shot routine on the course. When I'm back there, I do a belly breath. It helps relax me. Same thing, if I'm walking a hill, I got to climb it, and I got to learn how to kind of relax, recuperate, and get my heart rate back down. I'll do some belly breaths. And that's also kind of ties into the conditioning aspect, like within the training I do.
Yeah. And kind of a recurring theme is training these kids to be athletes. So the breathing that Bryce just went over, that's going to help that athlete, that kid later on in life as well, just learning how to properly breathe. A lot of the juniors, so the posture that we see is not great. And so just teaching them how and why we are doing something is very important. Lately, always, but focusing on being intentional with what we're doing with these kids as well. Having them understand why they're doing it, what they should be feeling, and then also having them regurgitate that back, going up to a kid doing an RDL or a dead bug or a bird dog or something like that. What are you feeling here? What are you supposed to be feeling here? And then why are we doing this? And so just to kind of help that athlete understand, again, their own body, what they should be feeling, and then taking that with them just to become a better athlete, and then also help them on later down in their life and whatever pops up for them. So yeah, the reoccurring theme here is training these kids to be athletes and not being so golfy. We see all these Instagram videos and TikToks of people doing all of these golf specific movements, and here's how you hit the ball further. But like 3 of us have been saying, it's all about training the athletes, not about training the golf swing. It's let's train them to be athletic, and so that they can support that golf swing.
Yeah, and sorry to add in again. Another benefit I really see is, especially once a junior starts getting lessons. I'm on the teaching side as well, and I mean, I see it a lot. Like for someone who's in the gym and doing a lot of like training as well, as if I'm trying to get them to find a new position in the backswing, let's say they're tucked super far back, and I'm like, hey, I got to get your hands a little more out in front of you, or just the opposite. Hey, we got to get a deeper turn. The kids and even the older people, I mean, I have a guy in his mid-20s right now. He was a baseball athlete his whole life. I mean, just having him, hey, we're trying to do this position, I need you to feel this. He has a much quicker response time to actually moving the way I'm trying to get him. And then, he can hone that in on his practice. So by the next time I see him, we're not stuck on the same issue we're having, because when someone doesn't have a good control of their body, they have a hard time feeling positions. But like that's another benefit of fitness training, and becoming a well-developed athlete. You get a better feel for your body, how it moves, why it moves, what feels good, what feels bad. And then kind of that back and forth communication with the fitness coach, the golf instructor. You can just really propel yourself forward because you have a better sense of how your body moves and why it moves that way.
Well, great. So before we open it up to questions from the audience, and I have a couple other that I've gotten throughout the last few weeks. It can definitely be tougher, I guess, to get started in this. So I know, Adam, it sounds like you work with, I'm assuming I know the Bob you work with is Bob Sowards.
Yes.
So I guess, what are some sort of like improvements you've seen in players that are almost like testament to how good this can be for you and what it can do for your game?
If you want me to start, I'll kind of share my story about Bob.
Yeah, that'd be great. Go for it.
I played with Bob in a tournament over 25 years ago. He didn't say 2 words to me, which was interesting, but I'm very talkative. Well, through the years, I'd run into him here and there. And about, I'm going to say 8 years ago, I ran into him again, and I basically said, hey, I'm finally I'm training people the way I wanted. And I said, when are you going to start with me? Well, he didn't want any part of me to begin with. And I really kind of pursued him. And then as I met him and evaluated him, I met him knowing he was very successful as a player to begin with. The guy's won over 200 tournaments in his life. And I haven't won one tournament. So to work with somebody with that many wins is pretty cool. But the neat thing about him is, as we talk about the athlete here today, Bob is definitely not what I would call an athlete. He played football a long time ago in high school. Bob's 54 now. That's a long time ago. As I first started working with Bob, he had major limitations that really had never been addressed for him. One of the biggest things I could tell you, he would do this with his arm, and I would look at his face. I'm like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? He's like, I can't get my arm up here. And so as we started to work on some of the basic things, the mobility, the flexibility, it was just really a cool thing to see him be able to do. And now he's older. He still has a good amount of life in him as far as his golf is concerned. I think what we've done on some very basic levels is going to allow him to play competitively for at least 2 or 3 more years. I know most of the younger guys in the section don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. So working with him has been great. And along the way, for me, I've picked up working with a few other pros in the area, and that's really cool for me to just work with those guys that some of them want to beat Bob, some of them just want to be competitive. So for me, it's really neat to be able to do that.
And when we get started with fitness and the kind of, the kind of progressions we see, one thing I'd say for kids getting into golf fitness, again, like I said with the last, be intentional. Don't just train just to train for a reason. Learn the proper motor patterns. We have a lot of kids in our academy right now that when they row, they just get super into their trip, and then they can't get over their head. Their posture's terrible, and their shoulders over top of them. It's because they have nothing from their lats, and they've always learned to just do everything here. And so when you're learning something, that's one of the advantages that being young has, is you haven't developed improper patterns. So when you are starting out, make sure that you are doing everything correctly. You're not going to be able to put up the most weight or be the strongest person in there. Obviously, you've just begun, but learning those proper techniques, the proper form, everything, that is going to make everything so much easier down the line for you. And again, it is seeing a kid who comes in that just fails the mobility and stability screen that we do. And then 4 weeks later, we see, okay, the mobility is improving. And then 6 weeks later, we're like, okay, you can actually move your pelvis independent of the rest of your body, rotationally, forward, backward, everywhere. We actually just tested this week our kids on Monday and Tuesday, and we didn't have a single one fail that test when we had about half of them fail 6 weeks ago. So just seeing them like, oh my goodness, this is how it's supposed to be, like that light bulb going off and their eyes lighting up. That's the benefit for me, is just saying, okay, now they kind of get it. They understand, they have that feeling, but developing proper motor patterns at first and learning how to do that, that serves you well down the line. And it is, that's one of the huge benefits for me as well. Just seeing that kind of aha moment for them.
One of the largest things, especially starting at a young age for juniors, is injury prevention and identifying these factors and these limitations as early as you can. I'm working with a high schooler right now, and I was watching him swing, and so pretend these are my feet. When he would, right-handed golfer, we're going that way, his left foot through his downswing always turned out, like he literally shifted the whole thing. And I was like, okay, so and I kind of had a theory in my head of what was going on. So I had him place his foot down. So if this is my big toe, I said, hey, keep your big toe down and just turn your body into it. And he's 15. He goes to turn, his foot doesn't move. He goes, I have an incredibly sharp pain on the inside of my knee. I was like, okay, that's a red flag. That's obviously something. And I tell him, I said, hey man, I was like, do you ever do long drive contests with your friends, like with your high school team? He's like, oh yeah, all the time. I go, okay, so for you to rip a drive as hard as you can, I go, you are one misalignment away of getting that foot to turn at the proper time, swinging 120% from a potential severe knee injury. And, his eyes lit up, mom's eyes lit up. We did a TPI screen, found out that left hip, very limited, and the left ankle, very limited. So this is kind of just a general knowledge. So whenever there's a restriction in the body, let's say it's the knee joint, either the ankle or the hip, something has to compensate to allow for a certain motion to happen like that. So when his knee is in the middle and his ankle and hip are restricted, it's a roll of the dice on getting everything to fire correctly. So, and I see these things all the time from 7th graders. There's a 7th grader I'm training right now, and again, one of her hips is very locked up. So a common thing I hear is, oh, well, they're young, they're flexible, they can move. To an extent, But it's one of those things of you don't know what you don't know. And even just something is getting screened, getting assessed from myself, from Aaron, from Adam, just doing that step one. I mean, it just helps you like as the junior golfer, but also as a parent, it lets you know kind of where you're at, and then you can kind of go from there. Cause it's another quote I heard, I'm a big quote guy. Like you can do an improper movement pattern 1,000 times. That's kind of just a number out there, but it's 1,001 that just tears something apart. Say I had a severe back injury my sophomore year of college. I had very poor mobility, especially in my hips and ankles. And I currently do have a bulging disc between my L4, L5. I hurt it back squatting. And luckily I was doing a internship with a physical therapy place. They helped rehab me. I learned some things from the strength conditioning coach who was working out at the clinic. And that's kind of when I really started to make a switch and kind of combined my love for golf with the love for fitness. And then, that brought me to TPI and, where I'm at now. But, cause I've been there, I've had severe injuries, and think of your putting stance. I couldn't hold that for longer than 10 seconds because I was in so much pain. And that was at 19 years old. And it's one of those things of if I had access to identifying that restriction, when I'm a junior golfer, or, even when I'm a high school golfer as a sophomore, or a junior, senior, I mean, that could have potentially saved me from injury in 6 months of rehab. So, I mean, it's you may not see it today or like 6 months from now, a year from now, depending on how old you are. But, you got to think, how do I want my life to be when I'm 30? Because, think like literally double your age right now. See where you're at. It's like, do you want to live in pain? Like, no one ever wants to live in pain. It just makes everything a lot harder. So like doing these TPI screens and just seeing someone to get assessed can be a great, great start in identifying any potential limitations that you have.
Great. Thank you for that. Kind of going off that a little bit before we open it up to questions. I know all three of you had talked about the TPI screening, things like that. What would the juniors here, how would they go about finding somewhere they could go to get screened? Like, is it something their PGA pro could do? Do they have to go somewhere specific for it? What would be their next step for that?
Well, the great thing is you got 3 names in front of you here. Get on your little phone there and put one of the names in because you want one of us to screen you. So that's our plug for our business. We want to work with you. We've been doing this. Aaron, I know you're in a very big facility there. I don't know how many people that you screen, but I'm sure it's a lot. I can tell you I've screened, or I should say I have done that screen well over 200 times on my own accord. That may be screening a client 3 or 4 or 5 times. That's different people. But if you go to the TPI's general website, I believe you can put in the zip code and names will pop up. Mm-hmm. It might be something like that. It might not be exactly that. But my thing is you need to be putting in Bryce's name or Aaron's or mine. We want you. We want to work with you here in Columbus, Ohio. If you're living in Columbus, I mean, why would you pick somebody in Urbana, Illinois to screen you? We want you in front of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you can go to if you just search like TPI on Google, go on their website. You can find they have a like find TPI professionals or something along those words. Type in your zip code and it shows you kind of anyone in your area. But yeah, and then I threw in my chat I threw my website on there, and then through there I have like a contact or like a connect with me page where you just kind of feed in name, email, a little message about it. I'm also very active on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So I'll kind of throw those on because that's a great way to connect with me. I work out of it's a gym called Power and Motion. Then I'm also one of the assistant pros over at the Golf Depot. Both are in the Gahanna, Ohio area, the east side of Columbus. Golf Depot is about 5 minutes from the Columbus airport. That's probably our best landmark. But yeah, I absolutely love helping anyone I can. And again, I mean, I know these guys they have awesome names for themselves and for their businesses. And so, I mean, you really can't go wrong with anyone. You know, I mean, we have 3 options, kind of maybe based on where you live, who's the closest. I don't know.
Great. And for anyone wondering, TPI's title is Performance Institute. So just to clarify that.
And it has nothing to do with selling Titleist golf clubs. So
Yeah.
just if you don't know what that TPI means, it's about the fitness relation to golf, not we're here to sell you drivers and golf balls that some people don't understand.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead. If anyone that's in here has any questions for our 3 panelists, feel free to type them in the chat. And as we're doing that, I'll go through some of the ones that I had gotten the last few weeks. One of the big questions that seemed to come up a lot was, what are things that juniors can do at home, or if they have limited access to equipment, anything like that? If you have any sort of recommendations there.
Well, I mean, first I'd say we're gonna keep plugging, but to go, not the assessment side of things, but go learn how to do the movements properly. Don't just do them on your own in YouTube and I'm going to do this, because feel is not always real, and what you're feeling is probably not really happening with the body. So first off, make sure that if you are doing anything, especially weight training, that you are being supervised and you have some sort of feedback. But things that you can do on your own, I mean, type of body weight core work. But again, I wouldn't recommend doing something specific with someone without actually seeing them move first. So again, it kind of comes back to getting it specifically is tailored to that individual.
Totally in agreement with there. I just goes back to what we said first. It starts with an evaluation. You know, kids, you're listening here with us, your parents make an investment. It's a $75 to $100 golf lesson. Then it becomes 10 of those. You've got to incorporate the fitness piece. It's just as important as the lesson, if not more important as the lesson, because if you don't know limitations physically, you could hurt yourself. And in golf, we got new contestant here. Get down. You know, you want to do something and repeat it, a great swing. So as you're working with your swing coach, whatever you're calling them these days, the swing coach and us should be working together. It helps the lesson. It'll help you get better. Now, I'm going to throw in my thing. I take that question as, okay, what can I do at home? Yes, it starts with finding out what to do. I'm huge on bands, okay? This
100%.
little baby, probably $10.
Workout.
You could do a lot of exercises with this once you know what to do. You can manipulate these. You can wrap it up, put it in your golf bag. I'm all about bands. It's about as mobile as a training thing as you could get. But again, don't just get on Instagram and, oh my gosh, he looks pretty cool, I'm going to listen to his stuff. Well, who knows where he learned his stuff? And not to mention, does he know what he's talking about? So you want that person that has the knowledge to guide you and show you what's going on.
Yeah, it's definitely hard, like, you know, just going out to find a random program to kind of find at home, because if it's a random program, it's not specific to you. So it may be beneficial, it may not. Again, it's kind of a roll of the dice. I know one thing that is pretty universal, though, is just basic balance training. You know, so one very easy drill I do, and I tell the people I work with, I said, I know adults, if you're a coffee drinker, or, you know, kids, if you ever make popcorn, stand on one foot while the popcorn's going in the microwave. You know, it's what, a minute and a half, minute 45, halfway through, switch feet. You know, and I mean, that's just a quick way to kind of throw it in. Or hey, brush your teeth on 1 feet or on 1 foot. Like, kind of surprisingly, you might find out it's a little harder than you think. You know, your glute starts burning, hip starts burning, ankles shaking. So, you know, where you get really good at that, close your eyes. or if I'm bouncing on one foot, start turning your upper body. And I mean, balance things, I think you can kind of throw in wherever. But in terms of like an overall program, unless you work with a professional, like a fitness professional directly, I think it's very hard and a little more risk to just start doing random exercises, random something, just because it's golf specific. Like, that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, and you wouldn't, I mean, if you asked, okay, what can I do at home to have a better golf swing? I don't know. Like, what do you do in your golf swing? So I mean, it's you wouldn't just ask for what drills can I do to have a better golf swing without actually having someone know your golf swing and what it's supposed to look like. So it's the same type of thing. But yeah, like Bryce said, I mean, balance is great for any age. So that's one thing. But yeah, we wouldn't tell you, like, even saying doing a body weight split squat or something like that without actually seeing if you can load the proper places. I'm not going to tell you to do that. So as with anything, we gotta know how you move first.
Great. Another question that we seem to get asked a lot was, what are some good stretches, warm-ups, things you can do when you get to the range? So you're playing a round of golf, playing a tournament. I know it's a good segue because Adam had mentioned the bands, but do you have
Here you go,
any?
people, right here.
Yep.
Yeah, I love bands. I'm a big, as Adam said, I literally have one in my bag. I actually also have a band. I have like this. It's like a glute one.
Yeah.
Great for activating the glutes. Honestly, there's drills in the golf swing we can do with it too, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, I'm actually so on my social media in about a week and a half, I'm releasing a free ebook on actually like a proper warm up. And it's typically it starts with dynamic warm ups. Like a dynamic stretch, things are moving. I like to start upper body. I literally saw Adam do it. We're going over and back, stretching out the chest and shoulder. Because we got to think. So in the golf swing, there's different motions we do. There's side to side loading, there's rotation, and there's also even some vertical force with the ground. So doing things where we utilize all three of those motions just help prime our body. So for me, how I teach it is I first help loosen you up with dynamic stretches. And then after that, we start doing movements where our upper and lower body are working together, because ultimately that's what the golf swing is. To get a full turn in our backswing, we need our hips to work properly. We need our upper body to work properly. They have to work at the same time, but they also have to do their own jobs. And so it's just kind of that. And yeah, I'm releasing that ebook right in about a week and a half. It'll be on my website. It'll be off my social media. Yeah, so definitely feel free. I have videos doing the exercises, kind of explaining different benefits. But yeah, Alex, good question. I'm glad you brought that up because that sparked my memory.
Yeah, I keep a dowel rod, and I try to tell the dowel rod or a band PVC pipe, something along the lines in my golf bag. But Adam already touched on it earlier for warming up. Like, Rory McIlroy is doing a full workout. So if you are going out to the range and hitting balls to warm up, we say you don't warm up by hitting balls, you warm up to hit balls. So if a lot of kids don't want to go out there on the range and do a dynamic warm up because they're afraid of looking funny or being embarrassed. But one thing I say is if other kids look at you, or if you look at another kid and they're doing that on the range, you get ready to get beat because they know what they're doing. They have activated everything that needs to be activated. They have trained intentionally as well. So warming up, like Bryce said, getting the body to move together, but also independent of each other. So again, the main thing that I say, especially all the kids that come in, they just go right into the bay and start. I mean, even if they're hitting like 7-iron or something to start off, and not just starting off with driver, like, you don't warm up by hitting balls. We got to warm up to hit balls. So always doing some sort of dynamic activity on the range. And again, who cares what people are thinking? All that will matter is that you beat them at the end of the round.
When Tiger changed it, the biggest message we're giving all of you listening to us is warm up before you go to the range. It's a must. That's where the game has changed. That's where the better players are getting a step forward. They're already beating you by 2 strokes before you tee off. I mean, you have to look at it like that. If you are not warming up the areas of your body that are your weakest, how are you going to warm up on hole 7 when you got to carry the ball 190 yards over water and you're questioning that? Good luck, because it's going right in the water.
Yeah, the number one thing I see a lot is, oh, hey, it takes me 3 holes to warm up.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
that defeats the purpose. Because we just wasted 3 holes. And this is the best quote I ever heard from a junior golfer. It's a kid I worked with. His name's Aaron, and he gets out on the course, and he's doing a few stretches, and he's like, hey, people are giving me kind of some funny looks. He's like, but those funny looks kind of changed when I shot 68 and beat them all. And I'm like,
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah. I have another quote I use where it's, don't be mad about results you don't get for the work you didn't do. That works in the gym, that works on the range, that works in practice, that works on the mental game. If you're not willing to put in the work, don't be upset when you don't get the results you want to get. Especially when you see other people, other junior golfers, other high school golfers, middle school team, wherever you're playing. If other people are doing other things, they're going to be getting results. So you have to be willing to put it in. And this is talking to the junior golfer specifically, your parents can't want something more than you want it. Your coach can't want you to get a scholarship more than you want it. If you're not all in it, why are we doing it? You have to want it. You have to be in it, to actually make that commitment, because when it comes down to it, when it gets hard, and things will, the gym gets hard, life gets hard, school gets hard, are you going to quit or are you going to step up? And I think that's another important factor of what I see in the gym, when we're doing exercises and, it's something that, you're not good at, or, maybe you're super unstable, or, you're weak at a certain movement. Like that kind of beats you down, but when you come back and keep going at it, now all of a sudden you just overcame something that crushed you in a way. And that carries over into life, because adults here, life gets hard, and are you going to let everything weigh you down? Or are you going to actually stand up, embrace the load, stand up? So, the gym and golf teach you valuable lessons through life that, as long as, you just go all in on it, you're going to get the best results ever. But it all starts mental. All starts with you as the individual.
Well, that was great. So I think one last one before we call it a night here is, what are the next steps that these juniors can take? Because I know all 3 of you are based out of the Columbus area, but we have a lot from the Dayton area, the Cincinnati area, all over. Like, what would be that next step for them to pursue this?
I would say go on TPI's website and, search for professionals, or even just search, if you're in Cincinnati, say Golf Fitness Cincinnati, just kind of see what Google brings up. Maybe, if they have a website, look at that. Social media is a great place to see, if they have their credentials out there or something. But if you see TPI certified, me personally, I would go there first, just because, us 3, knowing what it is. But yeah, just searching on Google of, golf fitness professionals in my area, or golf fitness, or, something along those lines, or TPI's website, and just using your zip code.
Yeah. And we keep plugging the TPI, but that for a very good reason. Even before I was TPI certified years back, and I was just doing a functional movement type screen, people would say, okay, now what's the next step? And I would tell them to be honest, we got to find someone that's TPI certified. Got to get you in with a golf specific professional in order to kind of make that happen. So like Bryce said and Adam said, TPI.com, and then plug in the zip code. And yeah, even just like Bryce said, plug in Golf Fitness near me, something like that. And then, shop around, find what you like, make sure that you're comfortable with whoever you're working with.
I think even with the 3 of us, you kids that are on here, if you are struggling to find somebody, you could probably message one of the 3 of us we probably know somebody that we could at least point you in that direction.
Mhm.
That's probably easy to do. I know some of you probably might be not as apt to speak with someone, so maybe we know someone that we could introduce you to in your area, because me myself, I've met a lot of people over the years through TaylorMade, and so I might know somebody that is closer to you than me or Bryce or Aaron, so I'm sure we can help you out.
I mean, step one was getting on this tonight. So
Mhm.
that you're on the right track. So keep going. Again, just ask questions. I've been in the position where I try to do everything on my own. I can do this. And I mean, ask questions and learn as much as you can. Yeah, soak it all up.
Well, great. Thank you so much. We don't have any final questions from the audience. Thanks to everyone for attending. Thank you to Bryce, Aaron, and Adam for giving their time for us. I'm sure we all really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out.
Yeah.
All right. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.